The doors to Penacony were flung open earlier this week, both in and out of game, and with this grand opening came the YouTube stream It's Always Night in Penacony. One of the main events in the stream was a Penacony Moonlit medley, played by the Sweet Dreams Troupe, which I assume was assembled for this specific purpose and will never be heard from again. But hey, that's showbiz! And the medley starts with music we've heard before in other promotional media, such as the fictional Come Dream With Us travel advertisement. This time, though, it had a dramatically different effect on me, mostly because hearing it on its own instead of as background music during something else is a very different experience, and part of it is the mix. This recording has a really good mix. I've been looking forward to Penacony for months, but it's always been less, oh, what marvels await us within, and more, I wonder what kind of hell this will turn out to be. I'm wary of Penacony, as are most players. For one, it's based on the US, and speaking as someone who lives here, that doesn't inspire confidence. Also, we know that Penacony used to be a penal colony run by the IPC, but they got better? That's suspicious. And to make things worse, Duke Inferno of the Annihilation Gang got an invite. So my compliments to the family for their creative sense of judgment. From the start, Penacony has felt to me like an anglerfish, luring in victims from across the universe only to snap its jaws shut. And these exchanges between MiHoYo president Dawe and Honkai writer Xiaoji don't put my worries at ease.
基调真的是非常的温暖，非常的阳光的。
不过以我对项目调性的了解，你们不会做了什么不通关就会醒不来，在梦里死亡也会导致现实中死亡这种设定吧？
不必困扰。
But in fairness, for all I know, Xiaoji could be telling the truth because... Okay, no, something really bad is gonna happen. Every time Penacony has claimed to be a happy place, my eyebrows have ascended into the stratosphere. But you know what changed my mind? 2 minutes of instrumental music. Penacony's main musical theme totally disarmed me, and for the first time, I wasn't just excited to see Penacony's secret. I became excited to see its lie. This is completely unlike anything we've heard in the Honkai Star Rail soundtrack before. The tone this sets is complex and filled with personality, and it bodes well for the story it accompanies. We've only listened to 8 measures, and already I have a lot to talk about, so let's get in there. So at the very beginning, we hear crickets chirping because nighttime, because sleep, because dreams. You get it, moving on. Out of the crickets, we hear a cymbal slowly roll in. That immediately provides the main thing this track is about: anticipation. Muted trumpet is a staple of American jazz, and so one of the many United States cultural references we'll come to see all over Penacony. Cultural association makes us think of urban cityscapes and classy nightlife. When the piano comes in, it forms a sweet major chord with the trumpet, which establishes the tone of the music as more bright than dark. But it's a close race. That trumpet line is certainly quite dark. This contradiction comes down to the notes being played. This music is written in the key of A, which means that A is our tonic pitch, the one we use as a reference point for all harmonies. A major is made of these notes, and A minor is made of these notes. In this piece, we mostly hear C sharp as opposed to C natural, but we usually hear F natural as opposed to F sharp. This is an unusual combination that results in music that sounds mostly bright at its core, but has significant dark features. And this is actually part of a greater pattern in the music. We end up with a lot of unusual note combinations because of how often the chord progression features half-step movement. A half-step is the distance between 2 touching piano keys, and wiggling back and forth across a half-step feels unsettling. For example, this little wiggle is in Für Elise. And of course it's in the Jaws theme too. I'm gonna be so mad if that gets copyright claimed. So here's the thing. Penacony's theme is mostly major chords, but there's so much half-step movement between them that we end up with a potent ebb and flow of anticipation. Half-step movement also frequently involves notes from outside any given key, so that's why we're getting the darkness of that F natural, for example. In this passage, all of the chords in red are major, but the half-step movement, highlighted in yellow, keeps them from feeling innocent. And then the last thing I'll talk about in this opening bit is the trumpet melody in measures 3 and 4. That high note is the second note in the A major scale. The letter name is B, but whatever. What matters is that it's the second note in our key. The second degree in major and minor scales is pretty unstable, by which I mean we don't like to stay on it very long as listeners. It's pretty close to our tonic pitch A, which again serves as an anchor point, so staying on the second note feels unfinished. Eventually we'd like to move to solid ground, like A or C sharp. In particular, since it's the highest note here, it feels like the trumpet is reaching for something it can't quite grasp before retreating back the way it came. For me personally, this increases the allure of Penacony and makes it seem like something to long for. When the second degree is used as a high note like this, it often gains a yearning quality, which you can hear in Voice of No Return from Nier Automata's soundtrack. You know what else builds anticipation? Huge thank you to my Patreon subscribers. If you like my videos and want to help me keep them coming, that's exactly what these wonderful folks are doing, and you can join them by using the link in the description. Also, okay, you caught me, this video is sponsored by Honkai Star Rail, but only because I already play and talk about the game, so I don't see an issue, do you? You were supposed to say no, but that's fine, we'll work on it. So you know what else builds anticipation? The massive increase in energy as the piece goes on. Listen for how the entrances and exits of different instruments impact the emotional qualities of the piece. Like, my god, it just keeps one-upping itself. Beyond the entrances of various instruments, the ramp-up gets really intense here in measure 13 because we get to this arrival point but then continue building tension anyway. And as the chord progression fails to stop not stopping, the trumpet and strings participate in this highest note contest, adding density and urgency to the overall chords. But after that, everything gives way to piano and very high strings, which are gossamer and dreamlike. They somehow got the piano to sound like a dark music box, which adds to Penacony's theme of sleep. These markings you've been seeing in the music are called Glissandos, which instruct the performer to play pitches in between the ones written as smoothly as possible. On trumpet, there's no real way to slide between notes, so you hear the notes change in quick succession. But violins are fretless, so their glissandos slide in a cinematic, eerie way. This also adds to the reaching quality in the high notes of the melody, since we hear the pitch extend upwards instead of just hearing the low pitch and then the high one. The rest of what we hear in these first 2 minutes of the music is mostly these ideas we've discussed in various new combinations, instruments coming in and out, moving in half steps, and using unusual chord progressions to create unexpected but satisfying arrival points. After this opening 2-minute section, there's a round of improvised solos on trumpet, alto sax, and electric guitar, followed by a disco rendition of the main theme. But I'm not qualified to analyze jazz solos, and I don't know much about disco, so I'd better quit while I'm ahead. But the full medley is a lot of fun to listen to, and I've linked it in the description with a time code. As for how 2 minutes of music completely changed my expectations for Penacony, it's pretty specific and personal, but maybe you can relate. When I was a little kid, I was pretty easily scared. Even though I loved going to theme parks, I knew something there would prove to be a little more than I could handle. Whether it was the simulated peril of a darkroom ride, the dizzying height of a kiddie coaster, or an animatronic ogling me in a way I didn't appreciate, something was going to test my bravery, probably multiple things. But the magic and thrill of exploring these wonders was always far stronger than my fear, and so I kept going, because I knew that whatever I saw next, it would be amazing. And that's what this piece reminds me of. I think Honkai Star Rail may have bottled their own special brand of mouse magic here. Penacony is almost certainly a trap, but because of this piece of music alone, now the bait is actually tempting for me all the way through the fourth wall. As I walk up to the front desk at the Reverie Hotel, I feel like a kid again. I'm a little frightened of what I'll find in the dreamscapes, but I'm hungry for it anyway.